The Ministry of Magic is one of the most iconic Harry Potter locations. Today, I'll give you a tour around my Ministry of Magic built in Minecraft, including many of the floors, the redstone, the layout, and the book references, all throughout the departments. With all that being said, let's get into it. We'll first start with the area right outside the Ministry of Magic. One of the things the Ministry of Magic is iconic for is the telephone box, which is the entrance to the Ministry. The filming location for this area is known as Horse Guards Avenue, specifically 15 Scotland Plaza on Google Maps. We watch as Harry and Mr. Weasley come across the telephone box, which is known as also the visitors' entrance of the ministry. A little fun fact is that this area is also reused in the Deathly Hollows. Since it's a few years later, a few things look a little bit different, but here we see the same garage that we see in Order of the Phoenix, that the trio is hiding behind and Ron crouches in front of. We also know this because when they leave, we see the same bridge above them, the same street line, and the same lamp, and of course, obviously, as mentioned before, the same garage. It's odd because in this shot we see that the telephone box is no longer there, so I wonder why they used this same area in the first place. Maybe it is for the slight callback, but again, it is the same place on Horse Guards Avenue. I built that here. When you get into the telephone booth, you must dial 62442 into the telephone box. This also spells out magic. The floor to the box slowly lowers and leads you directly into the main area. And here that is in Minecraft. Here's a little bit of the redstone behind it. I clone what's above and below the player, and I slowly have it drop you down, and then when you get to a certain point, it teleports you into the Ministry of Magic area, which is thousands of blocks away. For a brief summary, the Ministry of Magic is the main government for wizards and witches in Britain. It's completely hidden from the non-magical world and is located deep underground in London. It has offices, courtrooms, and departments that deal with everything from magical law and transportation to magical creatures and mysterious research. Once in the Ministry of Magic, the book describes the Ministry of Magic as this. They were standing at one end of a very long and splendid hall with a highly polished dark wood floor. The peacock blue ceiling was inlaid with gleaming golden symbols that were continually moving and changing, like some enormous heavenly notice board. The walls on each side were paneled in shiny dark wood and had many gilded fireplaces set into them. Every few seconds, a wizard or witch would emerge from one of the left-hand fireplaces. On the right-hand side, short queues of wizards were forming behind each fireplace, waiting to depart. These are my fireplaces. I use this add-on pack to add these bamboo blocks into the game, and I also have these gold blocks so they match the gold feel. There is soul flames, which make the flames blue, which is close to the green flue flames we see in the books and movies. The Atrium is the main hub of the Ministry of Magic. I first started out by building the circle that wraps around the whole thing. I next moved on to making the first layer of office spaces. I added the bamboo trapdoors to give this gold tint that we see in the films, and the red nether brick gives the red vibrant pop that we need. After doing one full layer wrapping around, I cloned that first layer and copied it many, many times, as we can see, to get the height of the Ministry of Magic. The circle leading into the second area was mainly just guess and check and make it look as circular as possible. There's also these few stone beams that just come out from the top. This idea is similar with my other two areas of the Ministry of Magic, where once I built the first one, it was more of just a copy and paste to make it look accurate. There's a few more details you can see throughout the build that try to make it as accurate as possible, but I'll just fly through this so you can see it all. The last thing of note in this atrium area is if I go all the way to the top, I added these three domes to the top of each section. In Fantastic Beasts, we actually see that there is no top, but we can assume there is some sort of glass at the top because we can see the light coming in. And we can notice the glass ceiling on this map. So these are the three domes. In the middle of the hub, you see this fountain. This fountain is also known as the Fountain of Magical Brethren. It depicts a wizard, witch, centaur, goblin, and house elf, though in the films there is no wizard. In the books, the witch and wizard were the two focal points of the fountain, We know that centaurs and goblins consider themselves superior to wizards and witches, which makes the fountain quite controversial. The fountain supposedly represents harmony in the wizarding world. I did my best in Minecraft to copy most of the shapes we see. I've also added a little water coming up using particle commands. Visitors of the Ministry of Magic have to first stop at the security desk to get your wand weighed and yourself verified. Many would think that the security desk in the Ministry of Magic is only seen in the books, but in a few scenes in the background, we actually do see the security desk. We see the security desk in the background of when Harry is running after Bellatrix, and we also see it in a few other background scenes, as you can see here. It is red and white and looks more metallic, but in the books it's described more like wood because it is set on fire. The last big thing in the atrium is the big golden statue in the middle of the ministry. Now, the statue is actually created for the films and was never in the books. It depicts a wizard, but that's all we know. I think it might be because they took the wizard out of the fountain that they replaced it and made it a whole lot bigger. Again, this is a focal point that we see many times and is one of the things the ministry is iconic for in the movies, but it is not in the books. This takes us on to the elevators or the lifts. This area is circular with many lifts that take the occupants to one of the 10 various floors. To find out where this is and to place it, I looked back at this clip. Sirius Black is killed and Harry chases after Bellatrix. If we look in the background, we can see the area at which he is coming from, that he's running from this area into the fireplaces. Later in this scene, when his friends arrive, we see where they're running from, which is on the left side of the golden statue, right behind them. The last way to tell where they are is in the Deathly Hallows Part 1. When the trio is trying to escape the Ministry of Magic, they come out of the lifts area and we see they're on their right. Now they run past a ton of people, but also past the middle fountain. Now if we keep an eye on where they are in relation to that middle fountain, we can clearly see where the lifts are. Now I know that that was a long way of saying that the lifts are on the left side. Here are the lifts I made in Minecraft. There are 10 levels, but only 9 places the elevator can take you. I'll go through a few of the levels that we will see in this video, but we'll only focus on the ones we see in the films and the books. Level 1, Minister for Magic and Support Staff. Level 2, Department of Magical Law Enforcement. Level 3, Department of Magical Accidents and Catastrophes. Level 4, Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures. Level 5, the Department of International Magical Cooperation. Level 6, Department of Magical Transportation. Level 7, Department of Magical Games and Sports. I will not take you to this floor in this video, but it's responsible for organizing sporting events such as the Quidditch World Cup and the Triwizard Tournament. The elevators in the books actually open up to this floor quickly, and it is said to be untidy looking, with many posters of Quidditch teams on the walls. Level 8, the Atrium. That is where we just were. Level 9, the Department of Mysteries. And lastly, Level 10, the Courtrooms. The ministry is set up so that Level 1 is the highest and Level 10 is the lowest. And remember, the entrance floor, also known as the Atrium, is Level 8. It is the third to lowest floor in the Ministry of Magic. That's why we see all the offices go up from the Ministry of Magic, because most departments are higher. We'll first take the lift to one of my basic floors. As the lift is moving, I did my best to copy what we see in the films, with the elevators going back, up, down, and moving wherever they can. There's actually a new ride at Universal that takes place in these lifts. It's one of the reasons that inspired me to make this video. This is just a floor to fill in some of the area. After showing you that, let's go to level 2, also known as the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. This is the floor that Mr. Weasley works on. In this hallway are enchanted windows. Mr. Weasley states, magical maintenance decides what weather we're getting every day. We had 2 months of hurricanes last time we were angling for a pay raise. I used the book mainly to build this floor. After they make note of the enchanted windows, it says they turned a corner, walked through a pair of heavy oak doors, and emerged in a cluttered, open area divided into cubicles. This is the Auror's office. As you can see in my Minecraft, I gave a straight hallway with some windows that will be the enchanted windows. They turn to the right, and if you walk through this oak door, you get to the Auror's office. As mentioned before, there are a lot of cubicles. It says they followed Kingsley along the row and into the very last cubicle. I tried putting that in the corner. It then says, he beckoned to Harry and led him out of Kingsley's cubicle, through a second set of oak doors, into another passage, turn left, march along another corridor, turn right into a dimly lit and distinctly shabby corridor, and finally reached a dead end, where a door on the left stood ajar, revealing a broom cupboard, and a door on the right bore a tarnished brass plaque reading, Misuse of Muggle Artifacts. In Minecraft, I have it so you walk through another set of oak doors, you turn left, walk down the corridor, turn right, walk down the corridor, get to the dead end. On the left is the broom cupboard, and on the right is the Misuse of Muggle Artifacts room. The books say, 2 desks have been crammed inside, and there was barely room to move around them because of all the overflowing filing cabinets lining the walls, on top of which were tottering piles of files. Here is where I built Mr. Weasley's office. Made it as small as possible, but he also works with someone else, so there's 2 desks in it. That is mostly what we hear on this floor. So I'll take you to the uppermost floor, which is level 1, Minister for Magic and Support Staff. This is the main area we see in the Deathly Hallows Part 1 when Harry, disguised as Runcorn, goes to infiltrate Umbridge's office. We see him walk down this hallway a little bit, so I did my best to copy that here. And then he comes across a ton of desks of people working. We get a few good shots of this area, and so again, I built that here. On Umbridge's office door is Mad-Eye Moody's eye, who died only a few chapters before this in the books. Into Umbridge's office, we get this wide shot. In the books, it's described as a lot more pink, but I did my best to just copy what we see in the films. We get both angles, front and back, and a few side angles. With all that information, I did my best to build it here. That is mostly what we see from level 1, so we're going to head all the way down to level 9, also known as the Department of Mysteries. This floor has a lot of black brick in it. We'll follow along with the movies for now, when Harry and Mr. Weasley get out of the lift into the dark corridor. They walk a few steps and look left to see the Minister of Magic and Mr. Malfoy, with the Department of Mysteries door behind it. Now this is different than the books, but let us keep going. And for a brief second we see them turn right. To their right leads us straight into the courtroom. We will be diverting from the movies for a second and going with what the books say. In the books, they walk straight down the Department of Mysteries corridor, and right before they get to the door that Harry later dreams about, they take a sharp left and go down a flight of stairs. This is what I made in Minecraft. They take the steps because it says that the lifts don't go down this far. This leads us to level 10, the courtrooms. In the books, at this time, the courtrooms haven't been used for many years. Last used at the fall of Voldemort. We later see them used in Deathly Hallows once again, once the Death Eaters take control of the Ministry. We'll go down the hallway, first stopping at Courtroom 10. Harry's court hearing is in Courtroom 10. We get many great angles of this courtroom, as you can see here, as Dumbledore explains why Harry is innocent. Here is my courtroom, got the stone walls, the fires, and the benches around the middle area. There's actually 3 different courtrooms we see in the books. In Goblet of Fire, which is one movie prior to this, Harry uses the pensieve and watches Karkaroff's trial. In this trial, there's a lot of gold edging to this chamber, with the iron bar cell in the middle. I made a smaller and brighter courtroom to best display this. It's got the gold edging and the cell in the middle. The last courtroom we see is in Deathly Hallows. We see as Umbridge interrogates Muggleborns, and in this case, it is Mary Cattermole. This courtroom is a lot darker and more black. We get a few angles of this, and so it's similar to the last one, so I changed a few blocks and placed that here. Here's this little detention chamber, which is seen in one of the video games, so I just threw it in here. Right before we get to the Department of Mysteries, we're going to go to one more upper floor. We do not know what floor it is, but it is the floor we see in Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald at the very beginning of the film when Newt Scamander is trying to get his international license fixed. This shot actually inspired my Ministry of Magic in a few ways. I added this little ledge area of many floors that look out, which is not seen in the original Harry Potter films. I quite like the Ministry of Magic that they show in this movie, but in many ways it doesn't work with the already designed layout that we know. Newt and Lena Lestrange walk down the corridor, so we get a few great views of it, so I built the corridor here. It wraps all the way around in a circle, but they stop right before this door. This is Newt's little trial room. We don't get many good views of it, but we do see a little bit in the darkness. A few red pillars, the circular table in the middle, and in the back, there's a little rectangular table. Here is that in my Minecraft. Moving on from Crimes of Grindelwald, we'll finally get to the Department of Mysteries. Back down to level 9, we're gonna head straight, right through the door at the end of the hallway. First, we enter the Room of Doors. This room was located in the Department of Mysteries. This room was designed to disorient any unauthorized personnel who enter it. It was a circular room with a dark marble floor that looked almost like standing water. Candles emitted a cool light, and there were 12 identical handless doors. Whenever a door closed, the walls rotated, making it impossible to determine which door was which. This chamber would respond to a verbal request for an exit by opening the correct door. In Minecraft, I made it so when you walk in, the doors rotated like so. I use a set of clone commands that clone a few different versions of this, then, in quick succession, make it look like it's spinning. In the books, every time they leave a door, Hermione uses a spell to put a red X on the door so that they don't go through the same ones they've already visited. When planning out the Department of Mysteries, I went through the book chapters and wrote down everything we possibly know about the department. In the books, there is a lot more departments than we see. In the movies, they go straight into the Hall of Prophecies, but as we can see by this front room, there are many more areas to this that we never get to actually see. Here's this little art I made of my plan for this area before I built it. And with that being said, the first room we'll enter is the Brain Room. This chamber was long and rectangular, lit by lamps hanging low on golden chains from the ceiling. It was quite empty, except for a few desks surrounding an enormous glass tank of deep green liquid. In this tank, a number of pearly white brains drifted around it. I used a few different fan arts I could find for this area and combined it into one of my own. There were doors along the walls as well as these shelves, and of course, we see this big glass tank in the middle. The next room we see is actually locked, so we never see it. It is mentioned later by Dumbledore that this room that is always locked is a room of love, which is known as the Love Room. And because this door is locked, we will not see it. And for the next door we walk through, it is the Death Chamber. This is one of the two rooms we actually do see in the movies, but it is different in the books. In the books, the Death Chamber was large, rectangular, and dimly lit. It resembled Courtroom 10, which we saw earlier. In the center was a sunken stone pit, some 20 feet deep. Stone benches ran all around the room and descended in steep steps towards a raised stone dais in the center of the pit. An ancient crumbling stone archway, unsupported by any surrounding wall, stood on this dais. This archway was hung with a tattered black curtain, which fluttered very slightly as though it had just been touched or blown by a faint wind. There is a few fan arts of this area, both of which they use on the Harry Potter websites. As we can see, they have the stone benches coming down towards this stone area in the middle. This is how I recreated it. We've got the benches coming down, and of course the archway in the middle. In the movies, it's kind of the opposite, with this like little hill mountain area in the middle and a stone archway on top. Both look really good, but I made what we see in the books. Obviously, this death chamber scene is iconic for Sirius Black dying, but also it's the area where the Order of the Phoenix fight all the Death Eaters. In the movies, they get to this area by the Hall of Prophecies where they go through a door and then fall. This resembles what happens in the books where Harry quickly runs into the room and feels like he's falling, but really he's just falling down the stone steps. The next area that we see is the Time Room. This room was filled with beautiful dancing diamond sparkling light. Clocks could be found on every surface, large and small, hanging in spaces between the bookcases, or standing on desks ranging the length of the room, so that a busy, relentless ticking fills the place like thousands of minuscule marching steps. A huge crystal bell jar stood at the far end of the room, and it was from this that the sparkling light came. Now for this room, there's actually only one image I could find, which is of this Lego set. In the new Ministry of Magic ride at Universal Studios, you visit the time room in the Department of Mysteries, but it is nothing like it's described in the books, so I consider that not canon. My time room has these desks lining the area which make an aisle down the middle, with many clocks, grandfather clocks, and smaller clocks lining the room. On the left side, we see this cabinet with a ton of what I tried to make be time turners, which are destroyed in this battle, which is J.K. Rowling's way of making it so there's no time turners left in the series. On the opposite wall of this cabinet is an office space that is used in the books for Harry, Neville, and Hermione to hide in. The crystal jar at the end of the room's significance is that a Death Eater's head falls into it, and slowly his face becomes a baby face, and then it goes back to normal, and then baby face again, and it keeps repeating this cycle of time. The last room before the Hall of Prophecies is the Space Room. Now, Harry never visits this place himself, but it is told to us by Ron and Luna, who do visit this room, and it is described as a dark room that was full of planetary models floating in midair. Visitors into the room could find themselves floating in the air. So in Minecraft, I've made this pitch black room with these planets surrounding it. I made it so the player gets high jump and slow falling to feel weightless. If you fall to the ground floor, it'll slowly bring you back up as well through levitation. And that takes us to the final room of the Department of Mysteries, also known as the Hall of Prophecy. This is the room that most fans are familiar with. The Hall of Prophecy, which was entered through the Time Room, again, different from the movies, was described as a vast, cold chamber with a ceiling as high as a cathedral. It was filled with rows upon rows of towering shelves. On these shelves were hundreds of small, dusty glass orbs, which are the prophecies, each with a dusty label below, giving a name to the prophecies about. Candle brackets set at intervals along the shelves had blue flame candles. The row of shelves directly in front of the door from the time room was number 53. The light was very dim in the hall. The candles were located on either end of each row, which meant that from one end, the far end of each row was lost in darkness. The prophecy regarding Harry Potter and Voldemort was located a short distance down at row 97. Again, this is the area we see in the movies, so many of you are probably already familiar with this area. I did my best to copy what we see in the movies. From this view, we see that there's a row of six, and then there's an alleyway, then another row of six, and another alleyway. It kind of combines the books and the movies into one area. The group also fights Death Eaters here, and Ginny makes the whole place fall, destroying all the prophecies. In Minecraft, I use these ender pearls and ender eyes from my add-on to kind of feel more like these prophecies. Now, I can't get the blue light since Minecraft doesn't allow me to do that, but I do have the bluish tint to those orbs. It's quite dark as you can see and is mainly lit by the candles on the end, and this room has a few doors connecting to the prior rooms. And that concludes our full tour of the Ministry of Magic that I built in my Minecraft wizarding world. If you enjoyed this video, you can check out my other videos where I built the Room of Requirement, Godric's Hollow, and the Triwizard Tournament, or you can watch my tour of my Hogwarts videos. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok under the same name, The Wizard Project, where I post edits and behind the scenes of my Minecraft world. And then, of course, subscribe to me here as I mainly post Minecraft videos and any Harry Potter related videos for that matter. I'll see you in the next one.